Hi everyone, happy Groundhog Day. Um, this is my February garden tour. It's currently 65 degrees or 18 Celsius, and very little has changed in January. I can't plant anything when it's as cold as it has been. That will be a little bit different coming in February, but for the moment it's pretty much the status quo. Now, there actually have been a couple of cold snaps, and there's been some other work done in the garden, so I'm going to go through here and talk a little bit about the impact of the cold, which is not much, and some of the other work that's been done. I'm going to do a longer video pretty soon talking about planning February that will cover things like that greenhouse you can see over there that just needs a cover on it, and some of these marking flags that you'll see around. But I'm going to try to keep this video a little shorter so that it doesn't just get really long. Um, so let's just start and look at some of the damage from the cold snap here. You can see the onions in the background over there and the garlic up front, and those were not covered, and they do have some leaf damage. It really is just leaf damage. It's entirely superficial. Before the cold snaps, I actually went and harvested maybe 3 pounds or so, around 1 1/3 kilograms of the green onions off of that row of Welsh onions over there. But they will recover nicely. Probably this month I will be able to harvest some onions off of that row again. I could probably do it right now if I wanted to go and pick through them. Uh, but for the most part, there hasn't been a huge amount of damage from the freezing weather. It did get down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 15 Celsius, as a minimum temperature, and there were several days where it got down below around 20 Fahrenheit, which is, let's see, minus 7 Celsius. Those sorts of temperatures are pretty typical here in January for a cold snap. They're not just everyday things, but it's not unusually severe. So, one of the more interesting things that I have going on here, in some ways, is these little tiny rutabagas. Now, I showed you these things in the January tour, and they have grown a little bit. They're maybe twice as big as they were. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to take you in the greenhouse and you can see what they should look like. But they are really tiny here, maybe, 4 inches or 10 centimeters across at the biggest. But they did survive with no losses whatsoever, being frozen solid for several days. So they did survive. They were covered, lots of cover on them, but that doesn't really stop them from freezing. It just protects them from the worst of the desiccation from the wind and that sort of thing. So wheat is doing good, about like I would expect for winter wheat. Barley, which is this right here, is actually doing very well. Um, it's growing more than I expected it would in the cold weather. It doesn't seem to be too affected by the cold in terms of slowing down its growth. Wheat actually goes dormant, but the barley really hasn't done that. Now, this barley was covered, and I do have some out here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, a little bit of dead grass right there is actually barley that was not covered, and it has died. Now, there's some green grass there too. The green is rye, and that isn't having a problem. But the barley did not like the cold if it was not under cover. These bins are all about the same. The peas in them have taken some damage. They're laying down flat. They're not looking good, but they aren't dead. They will spring back. Here, this bin wasn't actually made up with soil before. I'm doing a little experiment with some oat germination here to see how long it takes to get started, because I'm going to be planting oats this month. But otherwise, this stuff is really pretty much like it was, except maybe a little flatter from the well, the cold. So winter pea, rye, more winter pea, a little bit of elephant garlic in there. It's not necessarily easy to see. And chives, these look pretty bad from the freezing. They'll come back. And Egyptian walking onions, these look really bad from the freezing too, but they are still alive and will come back. So if you watched the January video and have a really good memory, you might recognize this as the rhubarb patch. The cold snap did finally get the last of the green on the rhubarb, so I basically raked up and replaced the mulch and got it cleaned up a little bit, removed some Bermuda grass. One of the big projects for January was I got some wood chips in, and I've got them piled up in a massive pile here. And I'm going to have to be going through that, and it's going to be a fair amount of work over the next month. There will be other stuff that gets done as well. But this is just sort of the work that happens when everything else is taken care of. So I did promise a brief trip into the greenhouse. It looks like I need to do some watering on these tomatoes, but you can see here that I've got some tomatoes started. This is oregano. There's some celery and some peppers. Celery might go out undercover in February, some of it at least. I'll just have to see if I want to risk it. Tomatoes and peppers. It's about time to start peppers now in this location. Tomatoes, it's still just a little early. I don't think it really matters when you start the oregano. I've also got a few fig cuttings that I've started this year. These are for a variety I already have, so I probably don't need these cuttings, but I do have them anyway. And I usually overwinter some sweet potatoes as cuttings rather than trying at the last minute to get slips started. And so I've got some sweet potatoes in here, quite a few of them actually. All right, so the rutabagas. Yeah, let me zoom out because these are big. How big? Well, it might be a little hard to see. There's a standard size sheet of paper there next to those rutabagas. So they get much larger when the conditions are decent as compared to out back. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the tour. I am planning on doing a planning video that you should see in a few days. And with that, thank you for watching.